Okay, Marissa, great to have you on the podcast. So this is kind of part of a series that we're doing all around health anxiety, and I guess just to kind of give context for the audience. So I came across you guys on TikTok, very randomly. I think I came across the song because I'm just chronically online at the minute with like checking all health anxiety related content. So I came across it and thought this is incredibly cool and something that we would love to be a part of. So I think before we kind of get into the song and how you guys created the song, like, can you take us back to why you wrote it and maybe your journey with health anxiety?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually wrote the lyrics to all of the songs that are on our new EP, including Hyperchondria, as it's called. But we can talk about the name of it later, probably. And I wrote them about 5 years ago, the lyrics. And just the nature of new bands is that some of them can start up straight away, and you've got the right members, la 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 la. Ours, it's not that we were wrong people, it's just we weren't necessarily right for each other. So the styles that we liked were different. People had different goals in life. So it's been 5 years since I've written them. And at the time when I was initially writing it, it was the first music I'd ever written for a band, our band now. And I was like, what am I going to write about? What am I going to sing about? And I just thought, I don't want to do anything just completely random. I want to be raw, be real straight away. And I thought, why not make a concept album about my mental health struggles? And I chose the things that I could talk about a little bit retrospectively. So I had had health anxiety for years before I wrote the song. And when I came to writing it, it felt like I had the language to talk about it at that point. I'd been through therapy already, so I really felt like I understood the problem, which it would have been two entirely different songs if I'd written it when I didn't have that. Um, but yeah, it just felt like the perfect thing for me to focus on with writing lyrics because they could just flow so easily. Um, but I started getting health anxiety uh, maybe about 9 years ago. I had OCD symptoms first, and that was classic tapping things a gazillion times, washing things up so many times, like never felt right. You know, they say, oh, do it until it feels right. It never really felt right. I had to just be like, I have to stop tapping that thing, or someone's going to see. But it started with the OCD, and then that morphed into health anxiety, and that's so common. They're so linked. They're basically the same thing in my mind. And yeah, I could talk for ages about how my health anxiety manifested, but that might come up in a bit. But yeah, my anxiety at the time was pretty rough, so it felt like the right thing to focus on when writing music.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting with how it's interesting that you said like the link between OCD and health anxiety because it was the exact same situation for me where I grew up with again the very typical OCD signs, right? Where like you're like, yeah, the tapping, the checking, like there used to be a thing for me where I'd like constantly check behind my bed at night
Mm,
and I'd have to do it a certain number of
yes,
times for my brain to feel satisfied, like typical
yeah,
OCD. But then as I got probably to like mid-teens, it started morphing into like more scary OCD themes, but then specifically health became like a really big thing. And I think from kind of 15, 16 onwards, it was like really like tied around just health, and I guess health anxiety became like the central thing. So I'm almost curious if it's similar for a lot of other people, where it kind of starts with OCD, but then it morphs into like I guess some people call it health OCD, but it then just become like a big anxiety as well.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's a pretty I feel like it's probably quite a typical journey for a lot of people.
I think so. I think OCD sparks any kind of phobia.
Yeah. It's funny how it sits there, right? Because I don't know if you know too much about like the clinical name of it, but
Hmm.
like it's been called so many things: hypochondria,
Yeah.
health anxiety, OCD. But it's like it kind of sits. I think it sits between OCD, between anxiety, and then like its own thing. It's quite it's a beast. Health anxiety
It
of
really
what it is.
is. And it was funny enough, I was thinking about asking you about the term because called it hypochondria because that's what I'd been calling it my whole life. And then it was only when I went to therapy that were like, oh, you've got health anxiety. I was like, that's a nicer term. But I was wondering whether is it because the term hypochondria is so stigmatized, or do you know why it's health anxiety, not hypochondria?
So the actual term now is illness anxiety disorder. So it's
Oh,
literally gone through like this is the thing. It's not even health anxiety anymore. And I think it was. The thing is, the term that people actually mostly is this is why we call it health anxiety
mm,
hypochondria, right? Because the term that most people understand is health anxiety, hypochondria as well.
mm,
But then, like to your point, hypochondria has got this really weird stigma, right? Where it's like,
exactly.
oh yeah, you're a hypochondriac. It's a bit
Yeah.
like you're very OCD. It's that type of
Don't get me
it kind of
started on that.
yeah yeah. It kind of gets thrown into that bucket. So I think that's why people moved away from it. It's quite an old term, but yeah, the official thing now is illness anxiety disorder, which if you're asking me is a little bit like just like call it health anxiety. I feel like
Yes.
that should be like the more straightforward term. But again, it's weird because it sits in such a weird spot, health anxiety, because it has OCD elements, but it is still an anxiety disorder. So it's yeah, it's quite an interesting disorder. But I guess coming on to the coming on to the song, so you mentioned that you wanted to do an album, around health, like around mental health and your struggles with it. With the actual song Hypochondria itself, like, can you share any of the with the lyrics and anything behind it that kind of what from your journey influenced that particular song?
Like all of it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's what's nice about the music we've made up until now is every line is built from truth. And as an artist myself, like Wolf doesn't make us any money yet. So we've all got jobs. And like my creative work as a writer and director has always been to do with like educating other people, but not just by being, here's a bit of awareness for you, which is always great, but always linking people to the actual help. Or it's, I've partnered with unions before to help people raise wages and things like that. So um, I thought I can't write music about this and be vague. So everything is totally true. And a line that I always like to use to consider how deep health anxiety goes is that one of my lyrics is a plant hanging near, perhaps it's highly poisonous. And most people will think health anxiety is just going to be, oh, I found a spot, I've suddenly got cancer. But I most of my anxieties in that realm come from, oh, there's a plant over there, I've not gone anywhere near it, and yet my mind's telling me that I've somehow brushed past it and it's seeping into my skin and I'm going to die straight away from it. Like it's everywhere. And I feel like when I realized I mean, OCD and health anxiety minds are super minds because we literally like think of everything at all times. So we'd be great
Ultra
detectives.
what if scenarios.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like we're
yeah, yeah,
great
yeah,
detectives. We solve all crime.
yeah.
But I think a funny one, it's not actually in the song, but this was around the time I wrote it, was I'd walked underneath a cobweb in my parents' house. And I said to myself in my brain, there's a poisonous spider in there. I don't even know if we have poisonous spiders here, but there's a poisonous spider in the cobweb. It's pooed on my head. I don't know how spiders poo. I've no idea. But I thought it's pooed on my head and it's seeping into my skull and I'm going to die. And I had to literally ask one of my parents, as a full grown adult, to go, I think that spider's pooed on my head and is going to kill me. And they're obviously like, wow, we've really got something going on here. And those were the moments where I was like, I've really got to write some content about this, as in the songs. So, yeah,
It,
all of
it
it's
it's
true.
it's funny and interesting you said that because I think that was also I feel like it's also the thing for other people. The moment of awareness of a problem with health anxiety is when you're externalizing it to other people,
Yes.
right? So you're like, I used to do this like, bless my mom. I did some of the stuff that I would come out with and tell her would just be like I look back at it now and I'm like, oh my god, that was
I
like, what was
know, I'm
I?
the
What
same.
I'm like, I look back and like really bad embarrassment of like, what was I saying? But it feels so real in the moment, right? It
Exactly.
feels
It
so
feels
it
so
feels so
real.
real. It feels so real in the moment, and it is real to an extent because it's
Yeah,
it's in your head, it's real. So,
exactly.
but that is when I think it clicks. I think at least for me, but I imagine it's for other people as well, where you're saying it out loud and then you're almost like seeing the reaction of other people and they're like, yeah, I think you don't have a medical problem here, you have
Yeah.
a problem with what's going on in your head. And that's, I think that was the first step for me of like trying to go and get it resolved, and
Yeah.
start the work on my health anxiety.
Absolutely. I think the seeking reassurance thing, and I was really bad for that in all ways, but
Oh God,
I mean,
yeah,
honestly, it was like
yeah,
every day, a couple of times a day. And another example that I think people, if they don't have health anxiety, should hear is like, I got a paper cut, and then called my mom to be like, it's going to go septic. I was like, what? And I can laugh at it now, but
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God. And I didn't just ask her, I'd asked my old flatmate Ben, who's like a brother to me, because he had to go through this whole experience, like not even a partner, it's just a friend, and he had to experience all of that and be so like accepting of the fact that I'm going to ask a gazillion questions that seem totally absurd to someone else, but it does make you think, oh God. And in the same way that for me, unlike a lot of people with health anxiety, I used to go to the doctor all the time because I wanted reassurance in that way rather than being scared of what the outcome would be. But then even when I went to see the doctor all the time, I'd be like, they don't know. They haven't figured it out. I know better. I know my body. Like they have no idea. Um, yeah, oh my God. It really consumes everything.
100%. Is it? Yeah, I mean, it's why. So one of the things that we're now building into our app is we're leaning heavily on, because there's I always say there's two people that deal with health anxiety. It's you directly, but then it's the people that are around you, probably your family, parents, partner. And so we're really trying to do a lot of work now with like how do we, when you're joining the app, can you invite a supporter, and then what can we do to educate that supporter in terms of, okay, if they are asking for reassurance, how do what should you say in that scenario to not make things worse, right? Because I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
I think the other thing is like unintentionally, and obviously no one does this out of malice, but sometimes some things that people can say actually can make you feel worse. So it's learning how to kind of like help the person with health anxiety, right, without fueling or without putting any extra fuel on the fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a really big thing. What, like, I'm curious from your perspective. What do you think people who've never experienced health anxiety, like, what do you think are some of those like big misconceptions around it? I feel like there's so many,
There are so
right? Like,
many.
yeah,
Um,
and it's probably similar to OCD, but like specifically around health anxiety, like what are those for you?
yeah, I find with OCD, it's really obvious. Like people just don't have a clue with that one. Whereas with health anxiety, I think they get an idea of what it is because it's a little bit more niche and more specific. But I think the two main things are one, how wild the thoughts can be, like the example of the spider and pooing on my head, and a paper cut that's going to go septic, and a plant that's literally meters away from me. The particles are going to come in the air and I'll breathe it in. Like, I don't think they realize how wildly extreme the thoughts can be. But then I guess the other thing is like I don't think they can quite gather how real it feels. Like you say, they sound funny now. And like I have mostly overcome my health anxiety, which is wonderful, but it was so real. Why would I embarrass myself by going to call my mom, speak to my flatmate, go to a doctor if I didn't believe that I was definitely going to die from this? So it's so real to the people who experience it. They're not crying wolf. They're not looking for attention, because I swear no one with health anxiety wants
No,
it.
no,
Like,
no, no, no,
we
no, no,
don't
no,
want it.
no.
Take it away.
Health. I mean, health is such a weird one, and it's, I guess, to an extent, I think we're getting a lot better in society now at understanding mental health disorders. I still think though health anxiety is such a, so I'll tell a story. We're trying to get investment at the minute for our app to help grow it and to help grow the mission.
Yeah.
And in speaking to a lot of like older investors, especially, they kind of like really don't get it.
Mm.
To the point where they're like, oh yeah, but everyone worries about their health. Like everyone kind of worries about their health. Like there's like, and I'm like, yes, and I can see how people, I think especially with health anxiety, because it's such like a universal thing that of course at some point in anyone's life they're going to worry about their health. It's almost like everyone thinks that if someone is dealing with it, then it's just like, oh, they're just worrying about their health. When actually with health anxiety, like the chronic loop of it is so different to just like worrying about one individual health scare, which everyone deals with at some point in their life. But I think it's so unique with health anxiety where the smallest things can actually be as big of a worry as if someone was dealing with like a huge health scare, if not even bigger, and
Yeah.
it's constant. So it's like it's been quite an interesting education thing when I've been talking to, particularly, yeah, some of like the older crowd where they just don't quite get, like they just see it as, oh well, everyone has health scares, everyone has health worries. It's quite an interesting thing when I've been talking to people about it.
That is really interesting. I'd never thought of
Yeah,
that. I mean, it's always the case anyway, trying to talk about mental health with
yeah,
a
totally.
section of the older population. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a. I think as as you start to explain it more, they get, ah, yeah, okay, it makes sense.
Mm.
And particularly, I think when you start talking about, because I think especially with health anxiety, there are so many things right now that are putting fuel on the fire to make it so much worse for everyone. You know, these TikTok algorithms, the ChatGPT, like there's so many things that are actually making health anxiety, in my opinion, 10 times worse
Oh
right now.
yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
when you start to explain that to people, it makes more sense. But yeah, it's I think health anxiety is such again it sits in such an interesting spot where people, unlike OCD, to your point, a lot of people don't understand OCD
Not
because
at all.
it's such a strict, particularly with some of the fears that
Yeah.
people have with OCD. Like it's if you don't experience it, it's so strange to understand. Like I think how it works is it's why I think it's not had anywhere near as big of a conversation compared to anxiety because it's just such a much more difficult thing to kind of
Yeah.
explain.
It's
Whereas
endless.
of health, it's like people get it, but again, it's still what is still similar to OCD is the loop, right, that people have with it. When going back to the song, when people listen to the hypochondria song, like what do you want like the takeaway to be, right? I always feel like with a piece of music, there's always something that the listener is kind of walking away with, right? Like, was there a core message that you wanted to drive home with the song?
I mean, not necessarily a core message, but I certainly, with all of them, I just want somebody, and there'll be more than one somebody that feels heard and seen through the song. And I guess for the people that don't have health anxiety, the song is very chaotic. Not in that it's particularly heavy. It's not. I mean, the kind of music I listen to is very heavy, but as a female that can't scream, I can't do very heavy music. But I love it, but that's not what it is. But it is chaotic because the genres are mad. Like it goes, it's jazz inspired because I'm originally like jazz and classical person, which is like surprising for a rocker.
Yeah, that's like that surprises me listening to
Yeah,
the
exactly. I
song.
was classically trained and like I only listened to jazz as a kid. Like I was cool. Classical training is not cool. Anyway, yeah, it was jazz inspired. So the call and response at the start is a bit more groovy, funky, and then it goes into ska, which we are not a ska band. I don't even like ska. Sorry to anyone that likes ska, but it goes into a ska chorus, and then at the end, it's just a bit nutty fruity, and the video is chaotic. And I guess the point of that is for anyone that doesn't have it, this is how mad the brain feels in these moments, okay? And mad's not a nice word, but truly you feel mad. Like as a person that's had it, you feel mental at times. You're just like, what's going on? So that chaos is definitely something I want. But I think the number one thing, and this is really important now that social media is so huge, if I had had a really popular, we're not really popular, we're tiny, but maybe someday we will. But if I'd had a famous person in a band sing about health anxiety in a song, I would have been like, oh wow, like you're touring and you're like living the best life ever, which they're probably not, but living the best life ever and suffering the same symptoms that I am. And now I've released a whole EP that if we ever get famous, there'll be people that go, oh my God, if Marissa can do it, then so can I. And all our coping mechanisms are different. My coping mechanisms are working like in any creative form. Like I'm a massive workaholic, and I mean that wholeheartedly because I'm so anxious. I have to work, 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 work. So I'm like
Likewise.
on a rabbit wheel, like
Likewise.
don't focus on
Yeah.
the illness. But I can still do that and manage my mental health problems. And I've had some really really bad ones, and I'm still suffering with one about eating, which means I can't swallow very well, which I literally wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But I can still do the things I love, and if I saw someone doing that and talking about it so openly, I think it would have done something for me. So that's the main thing, is I'm giving validation, not reassurance, but validation that you can have this but still make your life as fun as possible and like live it to the fullest, because we only live once, like enjoy it, you know.
100%. 100. I think it's so important because I think again, especially with something that feels as niche, it's not, but it feels as niche to the person experiencing it as health
Yeah.
anxiety. Just having more people. I remember there was a guy in the media. I think it was like Jake Quickington. He's like some kind of celeb, like some celeb star, and he went on did like a BBC morning breakfast show a few years ago and talked about health anxiety. And
Oh,
I think it came out of the fact that his dad and brother had passed away from cancer, and that
okay.
really created the trauma of health anxiety. Just I think having I remember seeing that and being like, oh wow, like I'm not
Mhm.
the only guy in the world that deals with this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just having more people, whether it's interviews like this, whether it's music, whether it's just more stuff that hits the mainstream of people talking about it. I think is so important because one thing I see all the time, like in my TikTok comments, is just like how many people. I think honestly, the number one comment that I get in my comment section is, "Oh my God, this is not just me." Then,
Oh, I
like
love
this is
that. It's like it found
it's
the right
it's
place.
100%. It's like I finally found like other people that deal with this, right? I
Mm.
think it's the same with all anxiety disorders, all mental health conditions, but especially with something like this, I think it's so important that more people talk about it because it can be the difference in moments for people of unfortunately making really you know bad things happening. So I think it's really
Yeah.
important. I think it's so critical, and you can't underestimate the impact of like just seeing hearing a song that you can relate to or seeing an interview. I think it's huge.
Yeah.
It's really 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 huge. Well, it's been great, Marissa. I think first of all I just like to say like amazing work on the song, and I know that many people will listen to it and go, oh my God, more people are talking about it. I can relate with this. And if they watch the video as well, which I'd recommend everyone does, go and watch the video.
Yeah.
I think they'll also have a laugh and we'll be able
Yeah, it's
to,
definitely a
relate
laugh.
as well. We'll massively relate with it as well. So really, really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, I mean, any final words?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I just for anyone watching, if you have it, like you can like manage your life. You just have to access the right form of help, and this app is a wonderful resource. Like, I'm so glad that this is happening. And like when you got in contact with me, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know this existed. Like I wish I could have that for all of my anxiety disorders because I'd
Yeah,
be on
yeah,
them 24/7. But I think one thing that I wish I'd done that I would love to sort of impart, even though it's a really obvious thing, is that, and I still need to do this, is I suggest like meeting other people in person that have the same issue, but in a safe way, because I can't afford those wonderful but very expensive anxiety rehabs. I can't afford it where you have group therapy and it's just way too expensive. But if I could, and there are Facebook groups, but they can be really intimidating to just be like, shall we get five of us together, not one because that's dangerous, but five of us together and talk about it, because I just want to talk to someone else that just gets it, and we just bond over it and then help each other. So if you have a way to do that, I really recommend it because I certainly need to get on with it. And also just to say, like, if anybody feels moved or like wants to like reach out, I can't be a therapist or anything, but feel free to message the woof Instagram and just give a thumbs up to be like, it's not me too, that's already a movement, don't say that, but like I've got it too or something, and we could just have a little like back and forth. But yeah, I'm just here to like try and bring some awareness and help some people out there with this song. So yeah.
amazing. And there's like a final piece for me, completely non-health anxiety related, but like what are the goals of the band? Like, what's the
Oh, well, I mean, we'd love to, for 2026, we'd just love to tour somehow. We haven't actually toured yet. We've played so much in London, it hurts. So and we keep getting TikToks because we're doing quite well on TikTok. They're like, when are you coming to Bristol and Wales? And I'm like, I don't know. But we definitely want to tour. So if anyone watching is in a band and wants us to support, we're ready for you. But yeah, to get a manager, not to get signed, but to get a tour booker or a manager to help us because we don't know what we're doing.
Amazing. Well, I think you're gonna go on and have a lot of success.
Thank you.
So congrats on the song and
Thank you
congrats on
so
the
much.
band and just the whole journey. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.